Alrighty, I haven't done a criticism sucks in a while. I'm just gonna jump right into this one. I saw this topic from Pirate Nation, and I mean, well, Pirate Nation kinda has a grifter audience, right? He sort of posts these things to get paid on Twitter, as he usually does, right? The guy who can't understand his own ass from his elbow. The guy who can't understand that, yes, if you try to distribute illegal ROMs in a Discord, Nintendo is gonna probably pull a 187 on your ass, especially if it involves their games. And he was blocking people after the fact, despite the fact that he was so dumb and he knew that Nintendo was probably going to come for his ass with the way they came for other people before, the way they came for Power World before, but I digress, right? This guy's intelligence is the size of a golf ball, and he's posting this article casually to his audience, which probably, I mean, let's be honest, like I said, it's a grifter audience. So he says, Hanako Shimitsu's arc in Silent Hill F is shaped by the Japanese women's rights movement of the 1960s and depicts how she musters the courage to combat repression she encounters. When you go down and you just start to read the comments and see what people are sort of saying, this is so fucking gay. A bunch of they made this game more gay than I thought they could. That sounds like a joke to me though. Well, shit, you know, people being disappointed at this being covered. It's kind of funny. Now, you then start to see there are some smart minds in the comments as well, starting to pick up on the fact that them going this route with this thematic makes sense. Now, there's a guy that's covered this. His name is Dr. Disaster. He's been on the channel before, and I'm going to let him speak, and I'm going to give my overall opinion on how this is a controversy, how this is really nothing to worry about. I'm pretty sure if you're smart enough, you know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to let him speak first, and then I'm going to give my opinion after the fact. Let's skip this terrible Star Wars intro, and let's go right here.
One of the reasons that Sydney Sweeney has gotten so much backlash over the past month or so from the feminist types with...
What the fuck? What does that have to do with Silent Hill? Like, first and foremost, okay, well, why are we talking about Sydney Sweeney in a Silent Hill video? What the fuck?
All of the ads that she's been putting out is that she makes them look so bad. She just starred in this ad from Jimmy Choo, and the feminist sewer creatures are losing their shit over it because in this ad, Sydney Sweeney portrays a ballerina, but she isn't actually a ballerina.
Oh no. Anyway,
I'm shocked. This just seems like something to really pad the video. So I'm quite bewildered, and this is my first time seeing this video, so I was not really expecting this whole spiel about the Sydney Sweeney jeans ad going on. I feel it's irrelevant to the topic and it's just fluff.
Talking to Charlotte, the female menopausal situations.
Obviously that's pretty damned nitpicky, but the thing which really pisses them off is how effortlessly Sweeney gets it right. She's into cars and stuff, which you can see from this ad.
Skip ahead.
Monster Truck magazine, and that is not normally considered feminine, but Sweeney still effortlessly maintains her femininity. These days, too many of these pink-haired feminists have crap like
it just
nose rings in
seems
their
like
face
he's gooning over flavor of the month, Sydney Sweeney. Let's get to the actual points where you start talking about Silent Hill. I think that's very important. Here we go.
So when we learned about this trigger warning to feminist victimhood politics, game which has been on my radar for a while now because it looked like they might be catering to feminist victimhood politics. The first hint of this came months ago when we learned about this trigger warning here from the game where they warn us about gender discrimination being depicted in their 1960s Japan setting.
Well, like I said, as far as I know, not only did Silent Hill 2 remake have warnings, but I mean, some of the original Silent Hills had warnings. You can make the argument that the warnings are longer and more illustrated, but I mean, again, you can decide not to play the game if you don't want to, or you can play the game if you want to. Just press a button, get past it. I never understood all this pussy ass like fucking rhetoric about, oh, there is a warning here and I have a problem with it. Just skip it. Like, how does it affect your enjoyment of the game? Silent Hill 2 had the warning and it got like an 86 or some shit, like an 86, 87. Therefore, I don't think people cared as much as you care about it, which is the thing. Like, I'm gonna be personally honest. Despite whatever you may feel about these warnings, nobody gives a fuck. All right, they're gonna play this game regardless and move on with their day. So I don't think that it bothers everyone quite like you. It's true. It doesn't. The fucking Silent Hill 2 sold like 2 million copies, and they had a bunch of trigger warnings out of the ass for the game. So that's just kind of how I feel about it.
Peg the patriarchy.
Oh, sassy.
I still wasn't 100% certain that was the direction they were going with this game, and then I started seeing articles like this one here, talking about the game, and it has become apparent that the narrative in this title does the preachy feminist thing.
This is dumb on several levels because it seems like this guy cannot read or pay attention to something that is done aesthetically in the past to be, you know, authentic to 1960s Japan and what occurred in that era and what occurred in the year. And I mean, all it takes is a simple Google search to really understand and get the gist. I'm sorry, this box is in the way. Let me block it. There we go. But it says 1960s women's rights movement known as the second wave of feminism achieved significant legal and social changes by challenging gender roles and advocating for equal rights in employment, education, and personal life. And you notice what they said there. I'm going to read it again. It's known as the second wave of feminism achieved significant legal and social changes by challenging traditional gender roles and advocating for equal rights in employment, education, and personal life. One of those words says education. Where does Silent Hill F take place? And what are you? Specifically in the game, you are a student in a school. Therefore, it would be resonant that someone back then was experiencing things of that nature. Why are you against the idea of a game that clearly is a period piece being authentic to what actually happened back then, right? I mean, fucking Red Dead Redemption, for example. You go back in the past and you find out there were people that were racist back then. That's kind of how it was. There was people that was involved in patronage and whatnot back then. If you remove those things out of the game, let's say we decided to take those things out of the game right now, you would be the first one complaining about it, saying that, oh, it's bullshit. Oh, that's what happened back then. But it's the same way here. So why are you complaining about it, right? Like, it makes no fucking sense. If it actually happened and it was a real life event and that's the story that they want to kind of incorporate with what people are going through, then it's no problem with it. And how is it modern? It took place in the fucking 1960s, dude. Like, this is not 2025 Silent Hill, or this is not even Silent Hill based in the 90s or fucking the early 2000s. This is 1960s where this shit actually happened. So what? Like, it's so stupid. Like, let's continue.
talking about gender expectations and things like that. Just like with too many modern feminists these days, they can't just mention the topic has become the game's entire personality.
Again, this is what they were fighting for back in the day. I don't know, why do you have such a problem with it? Something that existed. You know, I can see, you know, maybe someone saying, oh, this is a completely new story, a completely new plot thread. How are they going to tackle this? But it's not the first time that Silent Hill has tackled the idea behind womanhood, and how there is things like, oh, we have abused female children in the series and how they wrestle with those notions, which existed since the first Silent Hill. We have a fucking literal, like, survivor, right? We have a literal traumatic grape survivor in Silent Hill 2, and her struggles and how she is dealing and wrestling with the idea of what her father did to her, which is Angela Oresco in Silent Hill 2. In Silent Hill 3, you have the whole theme and thematic of forced childhood and you know, a fucking literal baby demon god being inside of Heather, and her dealing with this, and is completely not in her control whatsoever. So I guess you could say there's like somewhat of a abortion theme to it as well, if you really delve deep into it. Silent Hill 4, the idea of someone being too nice as a woman, leading to trusting a serial killer and being almost beat to death by that person, and showing the ramifications and consequences and thematics of that. Sir, what are you talking about? Like, a good bulk of the Team Silent Hill games have dealt with some of the harsh realities of what women have faced with womanhood, and they were written very well, and it was also done well in the Silent Hill 2 remake. And a lot of people like this guy. I forget his name. I know he worked on the anime Higurashi When They Cry. I really have to get acquainted with his name, but they enjoy his thematics and takes on things as well. And the writer has been plastered all over this game for, like, I don't know, since the inception of the marketing, dude. I think since the inception of that first presentation. I think I finally remembered his name. His name is Ryukishi01 or something to that effect, but even then, there's a strong level of trust with this particular writer. People seem to trust him. They seem to like Higurashi. They seem to like what he writes. They feel like he's a fit. I believe he should get the benefit of the doubt with a Silent Hill game, and we'll see how it goes. But I would personally believe that a lot more over you, where you are, once again, grifting for clickbait, you were grifting for rage bait, and I know one thing that may come up in the next few seconds, but let's see before we speculate.
The creators of the game were asked what the F in Silent Hill F stands for, and they've left it open for interpretation, but articles like this one here are making it obvious that the F stands for female.
That's a nothing burger. You linked and correlated nothing. If they say we're going to leave it up to interpretation, unless these quotes come from Konami or Ryukishi himself, then that's just another person's sort of like paraphrasing of what story elements are going to be there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the F in Silent Hill F means feminism, right? And of course, as we said before, a good bulk of the Team Silent Hill games covers a lot of stuff with women overcoming adversity, and people like those stories. So what the fuck are you talking about? See, one thing that I noticed that you're doing is you are aware of this stuff and you're liking the comments. So I don't know. I guess if you wanted to make yourself sound a little bit more smarter, You could have included those elements there. You could have talked about that. You could have talked about Ryukishi and his work and how he handles things and did some research, but we know you're not going to in this video. You're going to try to correlate two things and it doesn't make sense to what's going on. And this is 1960s Japan, the 1960s, where there was a lot of women's rights and second wave feminism going on back then. Do you want them to not be authentic to the time period? If they removed that in any other game, you would complain about that. So let's not, get on some podium and bullshit. We know that's true. Again, if they took out the fact that people were a bit racist in Red Dead Redemption, you would say, oh, that's bullshit. That was authentic to the time. You're ruining the criteria of the game to be raw, realistic, and unfiltered. What are you advocating for here? It doesn't make any sense. Let them tell the story and the themes that they want, and once the game is out, we will see if it resonates with the audience. Simple as that.
Or feminism. And let's face it, most people aren't interested in seeing that shit when they are just trying to play a Silent Hill game.
You found me beautiful one.
I think there is a lot of people that will definitely be playing this game if it is good and if it is interesting. I know most people have goodwill now ever since Silent Hill 2 Remake did so well. So if you're a horror fan and if you're a Silent Hill fan like me, you probably already have this game already in your collection pre-order, ready to play day one.
Honey, you got real ugly.
I think what people like him try to do is they try to make themselves look bigger than what they actually are, when if a game reaches the general audience and it blows up and it gets popular, you folks are really a small minority of what you're trying to advocate against and boycott against. It's just, it is what it is. Like, especially if a game does well, like, you think people are going to come to YouTube and say, oh, I'm looking for the next Dr. Disaster video on Silent Hill F to see what he has to say? No, most people are going to be in the store, they're going to see that fucking cover, they're going to be like, oh, that looks gnarly, I'm going to play that for a week. That's it. That's the reality of the situation. I know people don't like to hear the truth, but it is true. When something appeals to someone, they're going to want to pick up and play it versus, going out there and trying to find the nearest grifter to validate themselves. Some people like that. I should take that back. It's some people that do act like that, but it's other people that just don't care enough. And I'm sorry, buddy, but it's just a minority thing. Like, I don't know who you fooling. It just is what it is.
Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video.
No.
So make sure to follow me over there.
No.
Lousy with Wokeness pinned to the account at all times for your reference. My handle over there.
No. I'm just gonna... No.
Which has me ready to declare the game just insufferable woke garbage. A month or...
What basis is this just because it's being authentic to 1960s Japanese stuff? And... how rights were very, very tense back then, right? For everybody. Yeah, especially women. So
ago, this article here came out from Polygon, and the creators of the game were asked what the F in the game's title stood for, and they made it clear that it had an open-ended meaning. Polygon had a few theories about what the F means.
Their theories is not the validation and truth of what the directors feel. I think what you're mad at is someone else wrote an article and then suddenly you try to correlate that as factual evidence for what the developers want for their game. They want it up to interpretation. Kotaku themselves here, they're trying to make some differing discussion, but that's their own subjective thought and speculation. That is not the views of Rikuishi. I don't know if I said that right. Rikishi. No, I was thinking Rikishi for a second. I'm gonna leave that in. I don't know why. But that is not the views of the Silent Hill F writer or Konami themselves. So that's nothing. That's a nothing burger.
For example, talking about how it could stand for 5, since this might be viewed as Silent Hill 5, but they also talked about how F could stand for female in the game, talking about how Hinako, the main character, is a bit of a tomboy, and Polygon guessed that maybe the F could have something to do with the character's gender identity.
Well, okay, so let's entertain this one more time. Just because something is left up to interpretation does not mean that Konami doesn't also have differing viewpoints as well. We saw this before with Sybil Bennett in Silent Hill 1 going to Silent Hill 3. There was very, very different opinions on if she lived or died from the developers. Like, there's some developers that prefer one ending and leading into Silent Hill 3. There's other developers during that time that said, well, this ending might be canon, or this one, but the philosophy was everyone had differing opinions there on what happened with Sybil and the way that it happened back then, and whether they had agreements or disagreements, they all had differing opinions. And I think this is no different from interpreting what F is. Personally speaking, I think F is just reminiscent of the musical note that they wanted to put in there. They want it to be a little bit fancy, so they decided to put that in there. Whether you think it means feminism, that's once again up to interpretation, but I don't think it means what Konami thinks that it means. And of course they could talk about it someday and reveal that, but until then, I'm not going to take your word as gospel. I'm going to take their speculation as gospel when they put it out there on the forefront.
Oh goody, am I right? But that was all just speculation. I still hoped that maybe the game wouldn't be as preachy and on the nose with the feminism as I was
How do you know this, bro? Like, once again, this shit happened back then.
afraid it might be. But then I read this article here from The Gamer, and it has pretty much drowned those hopes of mine in a river of feminist fever dreams. The article starts off explaining that the game takes place in 1960s Japan, and then from there it says there's a very good reason for Konami's decision to pin Silent Hill F to this bygone era, which we're learning more about thanks to an interview from Gamescom 2025.
Yeah, there's two of them, actually. The first one, which you're too stupid and you are unaware of, is they kind of want to turn Silent Hill into a meta series. There's this fucking quote. I wish it was on screen. I'm gonna go and try and find it. But there's this quote from the guy who made Silent Hill Ascension, and he says something like, it's necessary for Silent Hill to evolve past the town of Silent Hill, Maine, or wherever it takes place. And he also said that, you know, they made this setting to not only try something new, but they wanted to also make this a period piece. And again, Silent Hill has tackled the idea of repressed women before, so I mean, it's a thing of he's acting like this is new, shocking, and different, and doing a lot of like over exaggeration over nothing. When, like I said again, it's authentic to the setting. If it actually fucking happened, let's say I base my story on like a true murder mystery, like it happened, like they couldn't find the killer in like 1990 or some shit, right? And I say my story is going to be based on that era or whatever. I would have to incorporate the elements of what happened with the killer, or fill in some blanks, or if something happened in this area or this time period, I have to be reminiscent of that. So if it takes place in the early 90s, then I can't have a fucking cell phone walking around, you know what I mean? Being like, oh, I now have this new 2025 Samsung right on me, you know what I mean? Because that would make sense to the time period. So that's what I'm saying. Like, why can't they have something that actually happened to the time period as a history lesson and teach that lesson, and maybe the characters can overcome it in ways, you know? Again, this is a writer who has a lot of goodwill, so why are you doubting this guy when so many people liked Higurashi? Maybe you need to have a conversation with Higurashi fans and be like, okay, do I think this is woke feminist garbage? How's this guy's track record? I think that would have made for a better video than this rambling speculation that leads to nowhere.
And then, down below it says, Silent Hill F stars Hinako Shimizu, who the game's producer describes as a repressed young woman, before detailing how this forms the game's narrative basis. And let me say that again to emphasize how effed, pun intended, this game's story sounds. A repressed young woman.
Okay, that's definitely jumping the gun, sir. I think it goes without saying, like, the game's not out yet and you have not played it yet, so what the fuck do you know about the quality of the plot, right? What kind of validity do you have, right? Do you have an early copy of the game? Are you live streaming it now? No, I mean, Maximilian, dude, he has a copy of the game. He played for, like, 3 straight hours. Are you him under the mask? Like, what the fuck are we talking about, man? Like, seriously.
Forms the game's narrative basis. And then the article says, the focus that we place on the story and for Hinako is how she musters the courage to combat the repression. So, basically it sounds like The Handmaid's Tale, but set 50 or 60 years ago in Japan, with a bunch of Silent Hill monsters lurking around. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound appealing to me at all.
This is what grifters will do. Unfortunately, they will make a concept sound as shitty as possible, and then all of a sudden, without the context, without the missing pieces, without the endings, they will summarize a game they have not played and write off the story from there. I've seen it time and time again with a lot of certain people, where the context clues are missing out of the equation. Until the game launches, we have no goddamn idea about how the plot is going to go outside of speculation from the trailers themselves, and I think that our Silent Hill can do a better job than this piece of garbage piecing together what the story may be.
But let's read some more where they take my fears that this game will be doused with feminist victimhood narrative and they crank it up to an 11.
Oh boy, I cannot wait. So I'm guessing it's going to be a journo's opinion. Then he's going to take it and be like, oh, this story is trash. This plot line is trash. Like, this is what the person who wrote the article thinks of what the writer said. And therefore, this is why the F in Silent Hill F means feminism. Like, it's just a bunch of dumb shit. After I'm just hearing about this video, dude, and again, it's not the first time that I have encountered or listened to this dude. He just spews straight nonsense without any validity whatsoever.
The article says, Hinako is quickly demonstrated to stand against the grain regarding traditional Japanese views on the woman's role in society.
That's what they did back then with second wave feminism in the 1960s. They were fighting for their rights. I don't know how many times I have to repeat it, people, but it's there when you look it up.
Which were, of course, significantly more prevalent in the 60s, which isn't to say they've gone away, but I can only imagine what it must have been like for any woman from that time frame who lacked interest in swiftly secured marriages and childbearing. Okamoto and the rest of the team are casting renewed light on the importance of the 1960s as a turning point for the rights of Japanese women. It all adds up to a terribly traumatic time for poor Hinako, which is in keeping with Silent Hill tradition. But this isn't the only article talking about this crap. There are shitloads of articles reviewing the bits and pieces of the game that they are allowed to talk about in the lead up to its release. This article here comes from the site Total Apex Gaming, and once again, they make it quite clear that the focus on the game is in talking about gender inequality. There's been a lot of talk in the past few weeks about how the combat in this game is way too action-packed for a Silent Hill title, but that's clearly because these people that are complaining about it haven't unlocked the game's secret move, which will let you avoid all kinds of action. What this move lets you do is lecture the monsters on the evils of the gender wage gap.
What? The fuck? Oh man, these dudes are legitimately brain rotted. I hope that's 100% satire, please. That's got to be satire, because if he's genuinely serious about that, he is the biggest moron I think I've ever heard of in my life, and I've heard a lot of them. I think I know what he's talking about. Let's see if it's the Dodge.
Pyramid Head himself would die of
No, this has to be satire. Please say psych.
cringe and boredom after being exposed to that within minutes. But anyhow, let's read.
He just cut it short there. What is he talking about where there's a gameplay lecture mechanic? He literally pulled that straight from his Johnson. Like he pulled that right out of his ass. Like, what are we even talking about? Like, I'll put it like this, right? I've covered, it has to be satire, because if it's anything else, it's fucking stupid. But I have covered so much of the gameplay of Silent Hill F at this point, and I have not seen anything reminiscent of that. I have heard of the criticism of people saying it feels way too action heavy, or it looks like something is wrong with the combat entirely in terms of like the hit stop when you hit someone, and it seems like it hits in slow motion for like a second. I think that Rising 1 also had hit stop, but this one is a lot more egregious. But he's talking about something vastly different. He's focusing on the thematics and symbolism here, and I'm just confused by what he's trying to point out and address with this whole lecture mechanic. The only thing I know is that there's a panic mechanic in the game where Hanako can get scared and it can affect you. Maybe talk about that. How do I know more about the gameplay than you do? Think about that for a second. Hold on. Think about that. How is it that I have more validity with my two eyeballs of seeing the gameplay and breaking down the gameplay and talking about the gameplay than you do? That's crazy to me, bro.
From this article, it says, though the devs have not addressed the kinds of themes that I found during the first couple of hours of the game, Silent Hill F is heavy with themes of gender expectations during the mid-20th century and how present it was in instances of abuse, especially towards women. Women then and now, though not as open and often, were oppressed by these expectations. It played a crucial role in the way women behaved in society and how women viewed themselves and others, especially in Japan, where conservatism is rampant and widespread. And doesn't that just sound so unique? A piece of entertainment where the true enemy, the true evil, is conservatism. We've never seen that before, have we? And you don't even have to be a conservative to be sick of that sort of thing. You just have to be someone who wanted to play a fun game without being lectured at, to...
Number one, you haven't played the game to realize if the game is fun or not, so that's a dumb argument. Number two is that it's rare to get a lot of these themes about symbolism and abuse frequently, because I guess you could say Silent Hill is a game series that has done it a lot, and other horror games as well. But for this franchise specifically itself, it's been dead since the fucking PS4 era. Like, I think we got the PT demo, and then that turned out to be nothing. So we went a whole generation without a legitimate Silent Hill title. We were gonna get one, but it got canceled. Um, so that and period pieces in gaming, I would say that you see them, but not as often. So I don't know what he's saying, but it's always around, and it's conservatism. It's such bullshit. It's like, hey, if that shit actually happened back then, I want the game to be as authentic and raw to the characters as possible. And if these people were dealing with abuse and they are survivors of said abuse, why not have that incorporated into the story to make them stronger characters? I feel like you're not thinking outside of the box as to what could happen with the plot. It's just a small little thing that's like on the side of my mind. Like, I just think you're not thinking outside of the box. You think all of this is bad because it happened in the past, and there cannot be any nuance or structure or levity or any good that comes from it whatsoever. Again, this game has like 5 fucking endings, so I would assume each one of them is going to be vastly different to what happens to the end of the character. And if it's portrayed as good or interesting, then I mean, what else are people going to say? They're going to say it's good and interesting. Like, there are people that want to play this game. Like, how do you know the story is bad already? It's like, just ask a ton of questions and you can easily debunk a lot of channels like this, because it just sounds like they don't really know what they're talking about, and the only muscle, the only strength they have is assumption.
Just be
And it's a bad assumption too. It's not even a good one. It's just, I know this is gonna be shit. I can feel it in my bones. And you know, that's not a proper way to gauge media in the slightest. That's not a good way to gauge media in the slightest, especially if it challenges you.
Absolutely sick of that kind of game. But for all these so-called evils that Japanese conservative values have caused, it's worth pointing out that right after this era, where the game takes place all the way back in the 1970s, there was a radical women's liberation wave of feminism in Japan, and now...
Well, you know this stuff, and you know the game is trying to be authentic to the time period. Therefore, what is the problem of having a raw topic be the center point of the game? I don't know. It just seems like he has the situational awareness of a fly, and that's what we're dealing with right now.
50 years later or so, the birth rates in Japan have plummeted to only a little over 1 child born per woman, which is well below replacement rates. In other words, Japan's population is, sadly, dying off. And I've never been to Japan myself, so maybe all this progressive, feminist shit is making people really happy over there. But if they are anything at all like the people in the US, then actually this crap is making people miserable.
So that's a lot to process and take in. So I'm pretty sure, I'm very positive that the low birth rates are coming from the fact that it's coming from 2 things. People are working a whole fucking lot over there in Japan. The main problem I always heard in Japan is the fact that the workforce is excruciating over there. I mean, it's really, really bad. So if there are perfectionists, people taking a lot of time to work, people doing a lot of overtime, that means that the life to work ratio is fucked, right? And you know, you need to balance work with life as a human. You need days off, you need quality time, you need time to spend with your significant other and all that other stuff. if the work to life ratio is shit, okay, rock with me here for a second, people, because you know I'm spitting. If there is not enough quality time, and if you are always away working all the time, no fucking shit, the birth rates are gonna be low. Because guess what? You're mostly at work, and you're not spending time with your significant other. You're not spending time with that person. You're not socializing to make a significant other. You're always working. That's the real problem. The problem isn't that people are trying to get away from said thing per se, right? The problem is people are working themselves to death, and is very frequent in Japan. It's a very goal-oriented, work-oriented environment for some people. We've seen famous manga artists, famous anime artists pass away from working so hard on their craft, and a lot of studios over there apparently not having good enough barriers when it comes to crunch. So I would, in good faith, say that is the attributing reason for some of the low birth rates. You kind of gotta socialize and fuck, man, in order to make babies, right? You kind of gotta spend some time with your wife to make a fucking child. So if you're not really getting that, and if your work to life ratio is fucked, then no fucking shit is there gonna be low birth rates. Like, how is it that, come on, man, this is basic common sense. How are you getting schooled so badly, dude? Like, come on.
This overbearing and incessant lecturing is causing people to argue all the time, and nobody is getting married, nobody is reproducing. It has gotten so bad that when feminists see someone like Sydney Sweeney, as I pointed out,
I think the reason why people like you aren't reproducing is because you have this fascination with Sydney Sweeney, and you won't go outside and touch grass. I'm just gonna say it. I know it's mean, but I think that's the problem. I think that's the issue, right? Take off that mask real quick. We can have a social experiment, you know. We can have a little bit of a social party. Just take off that mask, and we will see if you can pull Sydney Sweeney after having a whole beginning segment of her for like absolutely no reason, because you were jacking off while you were editing that part of the video.
at the beginning of this video, it pisses them off that she isn't like them.
He's capping for Sydney Sweeney. He's fucking jacking his cock to Sydney Sweeney. This is hilarious to me. Oh my god, dude. Why would you put your fetish in the video itself? It's like, damn, Sydney Sweeney bent over, you two. It's like, what is he doing? Like, oh my god, that's so funny. That is so funny. You've literally just incelled your way in this video, and it's kind of pathetic, but you gotta touch grass, man. That's all I can say. Like, I'm trying to sort of help you ascend, so to speak. If you drop the fantasies and maybe just go out there, talk to some people, socialize, get some wholesome conversations going, you know, pull some numbers, then you won't have this problem of, I don't think people want to marry me anymore, or something like that. That sounds like some synthetic man cope right there, where he was complaining about the same shit. Oh, the girls just want to fuck Chad, right? Well, I mean, maybe bolster your self-confidence and do something about that, and you won't be stuck in the same rut that you are right now. It's as simple as that. Like, do some self-reflection and some self-improvement, for the love of God.
Isn't a fat cow with a nose ring and blue hair and half of her head shaved with a sky.
Wait, is this guy calling someone a cow, like, in hands? He's even in that raincoat, he's I mean, you're a pretty hefty fella, man. I mean, I don't I don't know what to tell you. Like you, so I don't. How are you being insulting with that in mind? I don't understand none of that at all. And I know there's gonna be people who's like, why are you insulting him? And it's just like, okay, I don't like those super judgmental people like him that does this to other people, that they'll talk down to other people. You're just this fat, ugly, blue-haired feminist, and they don't look at themselves in the mirror at their own issues, and they try to ignore it and become this persona on the internet and overlook everything. I feel like that's a problem with a lot of young men these days, where they don't take a proper self-reflection and they project all this hate out into the world for other people, and it's just very toxic mentality of denial that tends to happen. So yeah, I think once you get past all that and the projection, maybe you could find a woman. Maybe, hell, like, fuck, if you can get a thick girlfriend that actually cares for you, you know, and instead of being lonely and fapping to Sydney Sweeney, who you will never get. But go ahead, man, just go right off.
Owl permanently etched on her face. These people have become fundamentally opposed to humanity, as if they're ashamed of being born women, and that's sad as hell. And let me tell you,
I don't know, you seem pretty ashamed wearing that mask. Like, Jesus Christ. It's like, take it off. There has to be a clear reason that you're wearing it. And one of the reasons is, well, I mean, come on. Come on, take the mask. Destroy the mask. Let's see who he really is. But he won't do it, so I just think it's funny.
tell you this, I have absolutely zero interest in playing any video game where they spend the bulk.
How do you have zero interest? You said it was a thing that you were interested in before hearing all these articles, so you had interest in it. And suddenly it's just gone. That's not how it works. If you are interested in anything and you had a like for it, now obviously you can dislike it later. That can happen, of course, but you can't say you had no interest when you had some interest before. Like, that's just very weird the way he kind of said that.
Of the time in the narrative valorizing this disgusting political movement. But I'm gonna leave it there. Drop your contempt for games like Silent Hill F into the comment section below. And
I don't think I will, and I have a strong feeling that you'll probably be grifting on this title for the wrong reasons at launch. And you gotta do more than just like gawk over Sydney Sweeney, man. That's creating a porn addiction. That's not healthy, brother.